Hey up lads and lasses, Damfire here, back again with some more GR2 content for you today. So I was a little bit reluctant about doing this video and releasing it because there is a big patch coming, I think potentially next week or the week after, which could completely change this video up. But with lack of content in general at the moment, I kind of have to go through with it, and then I'll bring a shorter version, which will be an update video if the meta does shift when the content patch comes next week or the week after. They said mid-May, it's May, another week's mid-May, 2 weeks is sort of mid-May-ish, so it'll be one of those two. Anyway, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and we are going to talk about fleet compositions and where they should be used and how and why a little bit. So we'll only talk about the endgame compositions here, so that's from level 65 onwards. It's not even quite 65, you can do some of them from 62 onwards, such as the triple battleship setup. But generally, we'll talk about 65 onwards because that's where you get all of your points. Again, reluctant because I don't know if that's going to change next week or the week after, but at least you got a good basis, and then the update video I'll fix everything a little bit. So, first off, one of the strongest fleets in the game, as most of you probably well know by now, is the triple battleship single cruiser setup. Now, this relies around having very high damage profile ships as your battleships, your damage dealers, and then either supplementing that with some more damage on a damage cruiser or running a support cruiser. So for an example is you would potentially run triple monster. I only have 2 monsters on this account, so I actually run a fog on this setup. Which works, it's not quite as good as an extra monster, but it works well enough. The extended range that the fog can get can help out in certain situations for certain, but obviously the sheer damage numbers that the battleships drop out just leaves that for dead. I personally run this with a support cruiser, which you've seen before on the channel. This is the global CN with double PT. This just keeps the fragile up on whatever it's targeting and helps dish out as much potential damage as possible. Now, this is the strongest, or one of the strongest archetypes of fleets in the game, especially the triple monster fleet. And the reason for that is because you're bringing 3 highest damage dealing ships you can get your hands on into a single fleet, and it just melts things. The best circumstances to use this type of setup would be either in arena, and if you've got enough tank and your shields are high enough, i.e. you've got the tier 2 bonuses going, even the tier 3 if you're that lucky, and you have maxed out captains at rank 30 or favor 30 with max rank. This is where this setup really shines because it doesn't need anything to tank for it so much, so you can just literally take as much damage output as you possibly can. So again, in arena, this is fantastic because if you get 3 monsters on top of a single ship, the chances are it's going to die very quickly. If you drop an enemy ship down very quickly, you've pretty much taken the arena game home. It's done. There's nothing they can do to come back from losing a battleship of their own. So this is where I feel it shines better in that circumstance. Now, for other fleet designs, you have the single carrier, double battleship. This brings a tank into the situation that's a little bit more readily available and ready to tank. For example, in this setup, I use my Immortal. I have got a Red Dragon on the way. The Red Dragon and Immortal are very similar. They have pretty similar tanks. The Immortal does have the better tank, but the Red Dragon brings out more damage. I run this again with 2 monster, but again, you can put whatever battleships you want if you want to change up your style. It does get boring playing monster all the time, but that's currently where the game's sat at. So the reason you do bring in, say, an Immortal is if you don't have completely maxed out captains, so you can't run triple battleship with, 2 level 30 captains and shields up the wazoo. The Immortal or a Red Dragon is in a better position because it's just got a basic health boost and just a tankiness that the other ships, especially monsters, which are quite fragile battleships, it just brings that element into your fleet. This allows you to get primaried, especially in tacticals, and it's very important in tacticals actually to run this setup over the triple battleship setup, I find. This is mostly due to the fact that, again, the largest ship in most of the tacticals is what the enemy will target. If you have 3 battleships, what the tactical will do is target your leftmost battleship when you're going into the tactical simulation. So we're going to fight here. If I replace this Immortal and I put my Fog in, this Fog is now the primary target in Bloodsail Earl and the Emperor Ymir tacticals. It doesn't matter so much during the fleet one, the Federal Fleet, and that's due to the fact that when you kill off whatever you're killing, it's just going to target the closest ship to it or the most damaged ship to it. There are other parameters there, and they do sort of mix and match a little bit. Bloodsail Earl seems to target the next most damaged ship after it's killed the primary target. So bear that in mind when you're running tacticals, that this spot here is going to be your target. Unless, say, you put your carrier down here, for example, then it will always be the carrier. But in this situation, that Fog will get targeted first, which will kill it off pretty quickly, because again, it's not a maxed out captain, it hasn't got maxed out shields or anything yet, so it's not optimal in this situation. This is why I do run the Immortal. Now, the Immortal will sit there, tank the entirety of the first monster quite happily. It will probably die when the 2 and 3rd ones spawn in, but this gives you time to get your monsters in to dish out as much possible damage. Now, the last type of fleet that we've sort of seen a little bit in the game is triple carrier. Now, unfortunately, I can't show this one off because I don't have 3 carriers on any single, well, not 3 carriers maxed out. The premises of this type of fleet, the triple carrier fleet and 1 destroyer, is yes, you probably won't bring much damage, especially in comparison to, say, double monster and carrier, or triple monster for that, even more damage in that situation. But you just bring an absolute ridiculous amount of tank. Okay, they might take down the first carrier, but the chances of you losing the 2nd and 3rd carriers are pretty minimal, even at the top levels of tactical arena, and even in an arena, this is going to be difficult to take down. Even with triple monster, it will struggle to take down triple carrier, especially if you're running things with heals on it as well. Your idea is just to not so much kill off all your opponents as fast as possible, just sit there and tank them and hopefully take them down eventually. Again, I don't run it personally. I have heard people using them in military competition. That's where they excel, because you can have your main fleet of triple monsters somewhere on like 2nd fleet or 3rd fleet, and if that'll probably win, or even if it loses, they need a main fleet to combat that, which means only a secondary fleet's going to be going into the next military comp. And if that comes up against your triple carriers, they're not going to kill them, which is probably going to give you the win overall in military comp. Makes it very good strategy for like a defensive sort of play within that style. For the carrier comp, I've not been able to do much testings. Like I said, I haven't got hold of them, but looking at it, 3 red dragons obviously works extremely well, but the chances of you having that's going to be very minimal. Your better bet would be trying to grab the Phoenixes when they come up in the event, and then running either Phoenix double Fenrir to give you a massive UAV boost, so you got lots of damage output in that situation. Again, the triple dragon is going to be probably the better one because it's going to have higher damage output because it's using, weapons. But I have seen kings doing quite well, so a mixture of immortal, king, red dragon works quite nicely as well. It gives you a nice variation on ranges as well as a bit more of a shield tank versus an armor tank. So you get a nice little mix and match there. In that situation, also, due to the fact that there are no destroyers that are particularly great for support, you are always trying to run a damage variant. So that sort of puts you into a situation where you pretty much always run a Lynx. I have had some guys testing this for me, and Lynxes are pretty ridiculous for the damage output that they provide. There are other destroyers that do pretty well, but the Lynx for just sheer DPS and damage output is the way to go, with it being able to put in 4 Tech 3 snaking cannons or Gorse, or whichever you want, onto a kinetic subsystem. It does create pretty solid amount of damage output while keeping itself fairly tanky, with thrusters being able to move it around and keep it shifting around the battlefield quickly, keeping it out of harm's way and dodging a lot of shots. In my opinion though, to wrap this up, the triple monster is probably the most ridiculous in my eyes. I mean, even if you're running triple fog or something like that, it's still very, very strong, but triple battleship in general is very strong. But the monster is in a it's in too much of a strong place. It needs hitting with a nerf just to bring it down. The penetration on it for certain is a little bit broken. I would also like to see some other bits changed on it. Anyway, so just to recap, your 3 fleet types are triple monster cruiser, carrier, double monster cruiser, and triple carrier destroyer. That's until probably next week or the week after. As a lot of you probably know, Titans are coming to the games, so we have no idea what cost changes might happen. You might be able to run quadruple battleship for all we know, which could be ridiculous. Yeah, 4 monsters, that could be completely broken, just make the Titans completely useless. But we'll find out and see when they drop. Anyway, just a quick channel update at the end here before I close off. I've been playing a lot of Infinite Lagrange, and I will be starting a series up on it that will be dropping in on the Thursday. Definitely go check it out. There is a PC download that you can get, and so that works on your PC, but it is also open for Android and iOS. It's got some serious depth for it, so I'm going to have a lot of fun because I'm going to be doing some tutorials and stuff on that as well, and trying to help players out. If you want to join me on that, we are on the server Triangulum, and the group or union, I think they call it, is called the Celtic Dragons in Region 4. Should be a bit of fun. Definitely come check that out. Again, I'll be dropping a video on Thursday, and that'll be a quick tutorial on how to try and do the early game as fast as possible to give newer players a fighting chance and get them into the union as fast as possible and do all the cool fun stuff with your mates. But yeah, I hope you have a good one, guys, and I'll catch you next time.